So here's the neighbouring block. This is pretty much what all the land around here is like. It's like a eucalypt. I mean, who knows what it used to look like, but basically eucalypt woodland with really tightly grazed cattle pasture, and then when it's left alone it will regenerate into a mix of native trees. So we've got forest red gum over there, and then we've got silky oak, Grevillea robusta, and then you have newcomers like the Kadaji, which is Corymbia torrelliana from North Queensland. That does really well here. In the last 10 years I've seen it really increase. It just comes up everywhere. So that's sort of coming through from below. That'll grow that'll germinate in forest and grow up through the canopy. I've got some on my block and I'm trying to use them. They're quite interesting. Then we have lantana down the bottom and small leaf privet. And then there's a few other things like tremor and acacia. But yeah, generally most of the land around here is just, it's been grazed for well over 150 years. It's like a savanna. So yeah, if you come onto my block, I planted many things years ago, like this Dendrocalamus brandisii. This is very large, very tall bamboo. Okay, so back to here. What I'm trying to do is turn this into a productive agroforest with the least amount of inputs, because of course with this, this slope up here, I can't get a tractor up here. I can't get fertilizer. Sometimes I try and wheel up wheelbarrows of stuff, but it's pretty tiring. So what we want to do is have the least amount of input in terms of effort and materials, especially materials. So what I've done is here's an example of a tree row that's being grown just for the biomass. So I'm using the grass that grows in these rows, which I've just cut, and I've raked it up and put it along this tree row. So the grass will help the trees grow, and then the trees will grow and produce more biomass, so that the grass will still be producing. And now you also have this Casuarina, this Tithonia, this Eucalyptus grandis, just there, still a bit dormant from winter. Bottle brush, this one here. These lomandras, they just come up by themselves. Once you stop grazing, there's still some in the seed bank, so they come up. And one of the things I like to do is, if I find native or even non-native trees that come up on their own, if they're not in the way, I just leave them, because it's it's nature's contribution to the design. Ever changing, it's dynamic. Then we try something a bit left field. This is Mary. This is Western Australian Corymbia. That's one of my favourite trees. I was growing up as a boy. Beautiful trees. Anyway, I just want to grow this so I can see, how fast do they grow? How do they respond to pruning? And also how do they grow when they're so far outside of their climate range? Like the rainfall here is pretty much back to front. So over in Western Australia, they get the rain, through winter and into spring, and here we get it from late summer until autumn. So it just sort of repeats. Eucalyptus grandis. So yeah, what I've done is I've just basically put all this grass mulch up here. This is nowhere near thick enough. You can see bits of, grass. Grass is coming through. It's just coming out of dormancy. So I just cover it over. I'm gonna have to cut the mulch. I'm gonna have to cut that grass over there and bring it to here to make it thick enough. If you make it thick enough, the grass won't grow through from underneath. And if it pokes its head through, you just put another handful of grass on top, and it will weaken it greatly. So yeah, this is a biomass row. I'm going to focus on these first, and then it's sort of like these are the expensive trees. These are the rootstock apples. See, I planted 2 apples close together. So that's going to grow up and become one tree. That's going to grow up and become another, and they're going to grow as a pair. So that one's going to be sort of bushier on this side, and this one's going to be bushy on this side, and they'll grow more or less in the shape of one tree. But it's you know, when you might have heard of multi-graft fruit trees, where you have like one tree with multiple types of fruits, you know, like you have like 2 or 3 different types of mango or something grafted onto the one tree. Problem with that is that the trees they have different vigor. So you might have one branch that's going to grow up and you know, overtake, and it's very easy, like for one branch to sort of pull all the energy out of the tree into itself and leave the other ones floundering. So by having 3 different, you know, 3 stems, it just helps a bit, I think. I'm just thinking in the long-term management that, you know, I know that what this tree is. This one's going to be, say, Cripps Pink, and this one's going to be a Yates apple. So they'll grow together but be independent. So I'll just plant some onions and a bit of chickpea there, and a bit of white clover coming up. So what I'm going to do now is there's no substitute for hand weeding. I'm going to have to just get in here and pull that up and put it on top. Once I've weeded this row, then I'm going to cut the grass above here. I'm going to cut that with the grass trimmer, and I'm going to rake all that grass down onto this to add to this row. And we want this as thick as possible. What I've also done here is I've planted some long-term trees for pruning. So there's some Simon poplar. So that's an emergent tree. That's going to be pruned like to a high pole. So it'll be pruned so the canopy is above these dwarf apples. So apple, then poplar, and then we have short-term bushes like this pigeon pea. I'm going to plant a lot more of these. I'm just going to wait until this grass dies down the center. See, all this grass is, you know, piled on top of here. But that grass it's yellowing, but it's still very much alive. So we'll just cover that. And, you know, it doesn't matter because we're about to go through a very dry spring. So there's no rush. You know, these pigeon peas, they'll survive here. Even if they get frosted, they'll just frost back to the roots, and then they'll reshoot like a shrub in the spring, which is fine. So there's no rush. We'll make sure the grass is dead first. Then just come in, part the mulch, and we're going to put in a whole lot of tube stock that we produce. We're going to put in a whole lot of seed just to make this very dense. And then we're going to prune it for mulch. So these apples here, these are just rootstocks. I'll let these grow until next late spring. And then when they're dormant, I'm going to graft them to whatever kind of apples that I want. So far we've got, I think, 14 types of apple here. And I want to get all the low and medium chill apples I can find and just see which ones work and which ones don't. And then once we've done that, we've got a row of olives and Indian fig up there, and that needs some work as well, but you know, it's holding steady. You know, can't get everything done, so just holding it steady. Once I clear away all this grass and junk and pile up that mulch, it's going to take off. It's usually what happens when you release these trees from the pressure of the grass, and you focus all the energy into the trees. They take off. So they're waiting. They're waiting for me to catch up. Excellent.